Hashem, we're going to go to chapter 27, verse 1, which will take us to the end of the parasha. I don't know if we'll go through all the Rashis, but this is the laws of Erechin. Erechin refers to somebody who makes a specific type of vow. The word Erech means the valuation. So somebody says, Erech alai, I want to give my value, my specific value to the temple. How much do you have to give? That's what is going on here. So, okay, Arya, you'll be our reader. You read. Okay, God spoke to Moses. Right, so a person literally means a person who will speak to the children of Israel and say to them, a man who will Yafwi Neder, will express a vow with the valuation of souls. What does that mean? We'll read Rashi in a moment, but okay, let's read Rashi. Ki Yafwi, Yifaresh Befiv, a person will orally express, will explicitly say a vow, which becomes binding. Be'er Kecha Nefashot. He says, Litain Erech Nefashot. He says he's going to speak. He says he's going to give the value of a soul. I mean to say, a person says, I'm going to give the erech of my soul, or the erech of my child's soul, or the erech of my parent's soul, or my spouse. The person wants to make a gift to the temple, and since you're not allowed to sacrifice your life, he says, I'm going to give the value of my life to the temple. The valuation of something upon which life depends is incumbent upon me. Meaning to say, he doesn't say, Rashi here is saying, he's not saying, I'm going to give the value of a leg. That won't apply. He says, I'm going to give the value of my life to the temple, or the value of my wife's life, or my child's. So then, how do we know what to pay? Let's say you would make such a vow today. You get up on Yom Kippur, the rabbi gave him very moving appeal, and you get up and you're so excited. You say, I'm going to give the value of my life I pledge the value of my life to the synagogue as a gift. So how would you figure out what your value is today? Well, today we have like actuaries, and they would say, okay, this is your value. Based upon, and tragically they had to do this after 9/11, when all the people who were killed, they had to figure out how much each person got on the basis of what their earning power, what their loss was. So there's, so there are ways, they have formulas. Typically speaking, if a person doesn't use this word erech, they have to give based upon what they would fetch in those days on the slave market. But since he uses this term erech, there's a specific amount of money that you have to give for each person, depending upon if they're male or female and how old they are. That's what this passage in the Torah is about. You want to know how much you're worth? It's all right here. Okay, you read, Aryeh. We'll tell you how much you're worth. Right. Right. So if the value of a male between 20 and 60, then his value is 50 shekel coins by the holy shekel. So if a person says, so if he's a male, okay, this is only me, I'm the only one here. Wait, how old are you, Yeah, so you don't fit into this category. The male between the ages of 20 to 60, he fetches the highest value. In those days, he was a worker. It's a pretty big gap, but he worked. Those were the working years. 50 shekel. Wait. It's hard to know how much it equates. Now, 50 shekel now means nothing, but it would be 50 pieces of silver by the weight of the shekel. So you have to see what is 50 shekel in the Bible equivalent of today. And, I guess there's different formulas, but I'm going to guess, if I had to guess, what is silver? Silver sells by the ounce. What's it going for now?
78.
78 what, dollars an ounce? So how many ounces is in a shekel? I don't know. So I don't know. You're probably talking like a few $1,000. I don't know. So grab a chumash noam. So 50 shekel. So Rashi says, Ein erach zeh lashon damim. This valuation does not mean, typically it would mean the market value as a slave, but that's not what it means here. What it means here is Ela Benshu Yakar, Benshu Zol, Kefi Shanav, Hu Ha'erach HaKatsuv Olav B'Parshazu. Whether he's in those days, let's say, as strong as like Dwayne Rock Johnson, or he's as weak as me, we get the same valuation. It goes by your age. This is not like it's once he uses this word Erech, we're chapter 27 of Leviticus, verse 1. Once he uses the term Erech, that means it goes into the age, irrespective of your actual market value. Did they give you an answer, Arye?
Well, right now it's worth 1,800. But I mean, last year the silver, like the last year was $600. So just today it's like
Okay, so it's clearly much less than your actually value would be. Presumably, most of us have much more, but that would be what it's worth today. But then you'd have to like figure out what would 50 shekel. Really, the only way to figure out is what would be the purchasing power of 50 shekel
like how much
in biblical times. And I guess the only way to maybe one comparison would be when Abraham brought from Ephron the land for 400 shekel. So for 400 shekel, you can get a really nice piece of land. Marat Machpelah and all the land around it. So let's say you would buy a land like that valuation today. That'd probably be like
1 shekel. It was like 4 ounces.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the really way to figure it out is what was the purchasing power of 50 shekel. So to buy a piece of property like Marat Machpelah and in the area around it was 400 shekel, but maybe Abraham overpaid. But anyway, regardless, you could see it. So it's like an eighth of what it costs to buy a nice piece of property. Okay, maybe. I don't know. Okay, so Erkecha, so that's their value. So no, what do you think my market value is according to the Torah? If I say I'm going to give the value of my life to the erech of my life to the temple, how much do I have to give?
It's priceless.
No, I have to give. I'm between the age of 20 and 60, so I have to give 20 shekels. But if I'm a woman, you think a woman's worth more or less?
More, less.
Read the next pasuk, verse 4. Vim nekeva.
Vim nekeva.
Ki
ve'aya irkecha 30 shekel.
Yeah, if she's a woman, she says erech halai, she has to give 30 shekel. This is the women are smarter. They said, yeah, man, you think you're worth more, you have to pay more. So
You just say like I'll give 50 shekel.
they didn't say that. They said, right. It's not why didn't they? They could also have used a different formula, but this is only if they gave the specific formula of erech. Now, it's probably the case that in that time, that was like a specific thing people used to say. People used to say erachalai. That was like, like nowadays people say, I pledge this. So if you use those specific words, you could say, if you say it about yourself, it's 50. If you say it about your wife, and she's the same age, then you have to give 30 shekel.
Older or younger than
That's an Aryeh. Read the next pasuk. Pasuk Hey.
ואם בן 5 שנים ועד בן 20 שנה והיה כאחד הזכר 20 שקלים ולנקבו 10 שקלים.
Right, but if he's from 5 years old until 20, so that's Aryeh and Noam, then the value of the male is 20 shekel. So I'm worth 50 shekel, you're worth 20 shekel. And the value of the female is 10 shekalim. Rashi says it's not that the minor, that the child made the vow, because if a 5-year-old says erachalai, it doesn't mean anything. The 5-year-old has no agency, but rather it means if an adult said, I'm giving the value of my minor, who's so happy that his 6-year-old went to the siddur party and he read from the siddur, he says, I'm giving the value of his life to the temple, then he has to give 20 shekalim. Okay, now I'm reading the next pasuk. Ve'im
מבין חודש ועד בין 5 שנים והיה ערכך הזכר 5 שקלים כסף ולנקבה ערכך 3 שקלים כסף.
Right, so if it's from 1 month until 5 years old, then the male has to give 5 shekalim of kesef, and the female has to give 3 shekalim. For the female, 3 shekalim. But now read the next one. Read one. Aryeh, read this. You're gonna like this one. So he's over 60. He's over 60. Mordechai, if you're over 60, this one applies to you and to Aviva. Go on. So, but if he'll be a male above the age of 60, if he's a male, he gives 15 shekel, and a female gives 10 shekel. So let's go over this. If a male is between the age of 20 to 60, how much does he give? If he says erachalai, what? 50. But when he's above the age of 60, how much does he give? 15. And so how much does he go down? 35%. But if it's a female, how much does she give above the age of 60? How much does she give between the age of 20 and 60? No, between the ages of 20 and 60, how much does she give? 30. But if she's above the age of 60, how much does she give? 10. So how much does she go down? I mean, she goes down a third. And the man goes down more than a third. Right? So the man is worth more, but he depreciates at a greater rate.
Better investment.
So he depreciates. So Rashi says, once they reach the days of old age, a woman comes close to being reckoned, closer to the man, because a man decreases more than a third, whereas a woman decreases by only a third. So wait, let me see this. And this is why people say, if there's an old man in the house, there's pacha b'beita, there's something broken in the house. But if there's a safta b'beita, if there's an old woman in the house, there's a treasure in the house and a good sign in the house. The old man, he depreciates at a much greater rate. He's still worth more, but he depreciates at a much higher rate than the woman.
Just because of health wise, it's saying probably.
It's because the old man is less useful than the old woman. The old woman, she knows the recipes, she knows the secrets of childbirth, she knows the secrets of mothering. What's the old man gonna do once he's retired? He doesn't have as much of a purpose, but he's still worth more, but he depreciates at a greater rate. So this is what?
Interesting.
The Torah keeps it real. It doesn't pull punches. So if you're a man, you better use it like between the ages of 20 and 60 before you start depreciating really quickly. Fall off the market. Okay. Go on. Who's no, you read.
וימחו מערכך והעמידו לפני הכהן והריך אותו הכהן על פי אשר תשיג יד הנודר יעריכנו הכהן.
Right, but let's say the guy says Erech Alai, he says I'm going to give my value, and then who's walking in now with the shorts? What?
I can't recognize who that is.
Maybe it's John. I don't know, whoever it is. But let's say, all right, you want to see who that is? I do a security check. Oh, it might be Hugh, maybe. Who is it? What?
Sounds like a kid. Maybe like Judah.
Judah's not here. All right. Hello, Eliezer. So basically, we're talking. You just missed one of my favorite Rashis. He says a man is worth more than a woman, but he depreciates greater.
I don't get what like this whole thing's in the Torah. Like, what use is it?
Because if you make a vow to the temple, you have to know how much you have to give.
But why would you do that?
Why would you? People do it all the time.
But just say like I'll give like this amount of money.
But you didn't know the law. You said, I want to give him the value of my life to the temple. You didn't know. I mean, before today, did you remember this from last year? So you got moved. You were inspired by the rabbi's sermon. And you said, I'm going to give the value of my life to the temple. The Kohen got up there on Yom Kippur. He gave a beautiful sermon. And he said, I'm giving the value of my life. Now, 2 weeks later, they say, okay, pay up. Well, what do you have to pay? How much do you have to pay? V'machu me'arkecha. So let's say he's too poor. Let's say he says, okay, you have to pay 50 shekel, but guess what? He doesn't have 50 shekel. He's got 2 shekel to his name. Ve'amidu ifnei HaKohen. So then you bring him in front of the Kohen. Ve'arichato HaKohen. Al pi asher tasig yada noder yarichenu HaKohen. And then what happens is, hello, Aaron. Then what happens is, if he's too poor, you bring him in front of the Kohen, and the Kohen has to evaluate him according to what he can afford. And that's how the Kohen makes his valuation. What's going on here? That's he doesn't have enough money. The Kohen shall bring this person in front of the Kohen. The Kohen should set the valuation according to what he could afford. Al pi asher tasigad, according to what he has, meaning to say, he has to look at his money. The Kohen will arrange for this, but the Kohen has to leave for him, even though he's got to take what he has. You always have to leave some. You have to leave something for people. You have to leave them whatever they need to live. What do you need to live? What do you need to live?
Food, water.
That they don't say. They say you leave for him a bed, a pillow, a blanket, and the tools of his trade. If he's a donkey driver, you have to leave for him his donkey. So I think this has like some connection to like bankruptcy law. What's so funny? Yeah, I think this has like some connection to like bankruptcy law. Like if a guy goes bankrupt, they don't take certain essential things from him. They won't take certain. Oh, Jonathan, they won't take certain essential things from him under those circumstances. Okay, so Aaron, you read the next pasuk.
Which one's that?
Pasuk Tet in chapter 27. How you doing, Jonathan?
Good. Feel detoxed from the hair.
What air?
My hair, too much hair.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
You got it, Aaron? Kodesh. So what's going here? And all of a sudden, we kind of totally switch topics. What are we talking about here? So if there's an animal, let's see, this is what you need, Rashi. I'm going to read this to you. You tell me what this even means. If there's an animal that you would bring from it an offering to God, let's say a sheep, a goat, or a cow, whatever you give from it to Hashem should be considered holy. What does that mean? This is referring to the concept of a tamura. Tamura is when you have a pledge, you pledge an animal, you're not allowed to exchange it. You're not allowed to exchange it. You're not allowed to say, you know what? I don't like the sheep that I gave. I want to switch it out for a different sheep. You can't do that. Says the text here. Amar, Rashi says, Ragla shel zo ola. The foot of this animal is an ola. His words are upheld and the pledge takes effect. And then the animal needs to be sold for the needs of an ola offering. And its money is not holy except for the value of that limb. So Rashi says this verse is referring to if somebody says, I'm giving the leg of my ox as an olah, can you just give the leg of an animal as a korban? No. So what you have to do there is you have to sell the ox and for money to be used for an olah. You sell the ox for someone who's coming to bring an olah, and then you take that money and you have to give the value of the leg, whatever the leg would fetch on an open market, and give that to the temple. Okay, but now that was but now we're up to, you had a question, Jonathan?
Yeah. What if you found a more geschmack animal, or like a better lamb?
You
Can't switch out?
You can't. That's a good question. That's the next verse. Here, Noam, you read it.
Well,
In Pasuk Yud, chapter 27, verse 10. No, lo yachlifenu.
Lo yakrupenu velo yamiro totov brao rabatov hamer yamir bema bivhema ve'ayahu utmurato yeh kodesh.
Okay, so this answers your question right there. Right there, Jonathan. It's a straight verse in the Torah. You're not allowed to switch out the animal. You can't exchange it, a good one for a bad one. You can't say, oh, I gave this good sheep to the temple. I'm switching out for a bad one, or bad for good. You can't take the bad animal and say, I've got a better one. You're not allowed to do that. Once you dedicate it to the temple, you can't switch it out. But if you do it, then it takes effect. Then let's say you have sheep A, let's call sheep A Betty, and you have sheep B, we'll call sheep B Annie, and you say, I'm giving Betty to the temple, and then along comes Annie, and you like Annie more. So you say, you know what, I'm switching Betty, which was an Ola, I'm switching it for Annie. So now what takes effect? What happens?
You can.
What?
The sell.
What?
It's okay.
Well, we just said you're not allowed to do it. But if you did it, what happens?
Okay.
You said Betty was an Ola offering, and now you're taking, well, an Ola's a male. But let's say you said Betty was an Ola offering, so it's not. Let's just say it was a male name. Okay, Billy and George. So Billy is an Ola, and now you want to switch Billy with George. So the verse says, look at the pasuk. It says, if you did that, this exchange, then it and its exchanged will both be holy. So now both animals now have the holiness of that sacrificial offering.
Sacrifice.
They both have to be sacrificed. They're both considered holy. You're not allowed to do it, but if you do it, it takes effect. If you do it, it takes effect.
Can one be changed for another sacrifice, like an ola to a different?
No, you can't switch it at either. That's an excellent question also. Once it's what it is, you can't switch it.
Can you not just make like a general vow saying like I'll give one of my animals?
You could do that, but that's not what you did. It's not what you did. We're talking about a case where a person made this type of vow. Yes.
What if you wait until there's a defect? And then,
Oh, if you wait for it to get a blemish,
yeah, blemish.
then if you got a blemish, then you could switch it. Then you can't bring it. So then you could sell it, redeem it, and then use the money to buy a new one.
Yeah.
So if the animal got a blemish, then you could switch it out. Yeah, but it's not so simple. Okay, go on. Whose turn? Who wants to read? Okay, Noam, you can read. Yeah, we read that. Next one.
asher lo yakrivenu mimena karban laHashem ve'emid et habema lifnei hakohen.
Okay, v'im kol behema tmeya, if any non-kosher animal that let's say you took an animal that was not kosher and you said I'm going to give it to the temple, right? So but that's not referring to a non-kosher animal. This is referring to what Jonathan spoke about, the animal that got a blemish. So let's say you gave a kosher animal and then it got a blemish. So that's what the Torah is referring to. Any animal that got a blemish that you can't bring it as an offering, then you take this animal and you stand it before the Kohen. That's what Jonathan was asking about. Rashi says that that's what we're referring to. That it doesn't mean that it's, and we learned this actually recently in Menachos. It doesn't mean it's actually not kosher. It means that it was that it's impure to be brought. And that's the basic point, that the only way it can leave its status of holiness is if it has a blemish. Okay. So now, what do you do in that circumstance? This is what we're referring to. The Richa Kohen Oso, the Kohen has to evaluate it to see Bein Tov B'Ra Erkacha Kohen Kenya. The Kohen is the one who gives the evaluation. Wow. What a concept, that the Kohen is the one who gives the valuation. It's all up to the Kohen. He's got a lot of power. He's got a lot of power inside of him. Okay. Vim ga'ol yigoena. So let's say the animal got a blemish on it, so you can redeem it. So do you just, let's say the Kohen says, okay, you said I'm giving Billy the goat to the temple. And then I'm giving Billy the goat as an offering, as an Ola offering. And then Billy gets a cataract, so he can't be brought. So then how much do you have to redeem it for? So the Kohen evaluates, says Billy is $100. So you give Billy, how much you have to give to the temple? No, but you can't give the animal anymore as an offering because the animal has a blemish. What?
The same as what it would be to buy one.
So no, the Kohen evaluates it, it's worth $100. So you have to give the $100 plus 1/5. You have to give $100 plus 1/5. So that's the concept here. You have to give the $100 plus 1/5. All right, let's stop here. Let's see if we how. Hold on.